when you talked about Thomas and Rogers in particular, you were saying the comment about Rogers and what he showed in high school about just getting the ball in his hands. I'm going to throw another name at you who's obviously well established, but when you look at his potential with Isaiah Spiller out of the way now and possibly getting Heisman talk and being that kind of a breakout player, not that everybody doesn't already know how good Devon Achane is, but he led the SEC in yards per carry. He's a receiving threat out of the backfield. He could really have a special season.
Yeah, and when you look at just what he's doing this spring on the track is phenomenal. He ran a 10.14 100-meter time in the 100-meter in March, and just has speed for days. And if you just look at his stats from even last year, he was really productive, and I think A&M feels really good about kind of having him step in. I mean, he averaged 7 yards per carry last year. And so I think A&M, they'll miss Isaiah Spiller, and he was a tremendously reliable back for the past 3 seasons. But I think Devon Achane is a guy that they certainly feel comfortable turning the ball and turning around and handing it to, and seeing what he can do. I think they really feel like he can be a 20 carry a guy as well per game, and Jimbo Fisher's talked about that and compared him to some other guys that he coached. I don't think he's at all worried about size or anything like that, but his speed is just world class. I mean, he has probably a legitimate chance to, if he continues on this path, to try to compete at the Olympics in sprinting as well, which just speaks to what type of athlete he is. And I think they've really liked what they've seen from Amari Daniels too. And Anais Smith is a guy that still has the capability of being able to go back in the backfield and play some running back and split out and do a whole bunch of different things. And so I think they feel good about what they have with those sorts of weapons. LJ Johnson's another guy that's got a ton of talent, just didn't stay healthy this spring. And I know Jimbo Fisher lamented that part, that they weren't able to get him more work and reps in the spring, but I think they feel really, really good about that running back room and the ability for Devon Achane to kind of step right in and be a guy that can be an impact guy.
You had mentioned to me before we started to record, Jimbo Fisher made a comment about we need to close. We need to learn. This team needs to learn how to close next year. And when I hear that, I think about, okay, well, maybe some of that's on the coaching staff, certainly in regards to game management, game situations, but also, physically, certain positions especially seem to wear down in the fourth quarter. So it could be about conditioning. It could be about poise. It could be about, obviously, execution, concentration, doing the little things right, not making mistakes, all those sorts of things that could tie into possibly closing out some of these games.
Yeah, I think the one you mentioned there was not making mistakes and kind of being able to lock in and kind of those key moments when the game's on the line. And it was part of a larger question about where the program's kind of heading, and the recruiting class they obviously put together, and all that. And one of the things he said is, when you look at the Arkansas game, they had a turnover in the fourth quarter that came back to hurt them. Should have, they kind of felt they, despite the slow start, had the lead late against Ole Miss. Weren't able to close that game out. And then I think folks in Aggieland still feel like A&M should have won the LSU game with the strip punt. But aside from that, being able to get a key stop on third down or on the punt, being able to get a stop on third down and not let LSU drive right down the field in the last 2 minutes for the go-ahead score. I think it's those moments he's talking about that, we need to be able to make the play on third down and get off the field and lock in when the moments are kind of at their biggest. And that starts in practice. That starts with attention to detail in practice. That starts with avoiding penalties, avoiding turnovers, Drops were a problem again for A&M last season. They had one, a big one in the LSU game that ended up coming back to cost them. And so, I think that's one of his biggest things is, we need to learn how to close games. And if you close out a couple of those games, you're looking at 10-2 instead of 8-4. The narrative coming out of the season is probably a really different picture.
Yeah, probably, like you said, everybody in Aggie land believes that they should have closed out the LSU game, except for Max Johnson. He's probably the only one that doesn't think that they should have closed out the LSU game.
He's had some fun with that too. I think they've enjoyed having him in the mix now, and he's definitely had some fun with that.
Okay, Andrew, now that you get this podcast every week, not that you didn't know this already from the message boards and the comments that you have to field on your stories all the time, you could be asked the quarterback question multiple times every day. You know that. Yep. So nothing's changed. We don't want to try to trick anybody into thinking we've got any intel that's not already out there or whatever. But I bring up Max Johnson, Haynes King. This is going to go into August, and they have somewhat different skill sets. So does it come down to who takes the leadership of the team and really pulls people together and makes better decisions?
I think it comes down to who protects the ball better, because they both kind of had turnovers in the spring game, battled some inconsistency. I know the talk coming out of the spring game was there was a strong wind inside Kyle Field, and Jimbo Fisher felt like both had really thrown the ball well before that. But just looking at that, I think it's going to come down to who protects the ball better. I know Jimbo Fisher's big on the leadership side as well. And so that's going to be a big part of it, as well as who kind of, who the team kind of gravitates towards, maybe who they play for. And it's going to be really close. I don't think anybody really did much to distinguish themselves in the spring game, to be honest. And so I still think it's pretty close, and it's going to come down to, who kind of takes that next step. He talked about, especially during May, June, and July now, when you don't, spring ball's over, the kind of the practices are on your own, and what you do, which quarterback kind of steps forward and takes hold of the team and grabs hold of that leadership role, I think will be huge. And I think it'll be similar to last year, where Jimbo Fisher probably won't say anything until probably the Monday before the game, or maybe the Friday before the first game. I think it'll probably go that long.
Andrew, it's always a good time. We appreciate you being here as always. Gig'em 247, but again, Gig'em 247, the podcast now, everybody, right here on YouTube. Absolutely. Or on your favorite audio platform there, Spotify, and where else?
iTunes.
iTunes, of course.
Yeah.